In early 1999, the consequences of addiction and a sinful life were starting to catch up with me, and there was no fun left in that lifestyle. And at that point, I began to look for some answers, to some freedom, to escape, get out of what I was in. A friend of mine had invited me to a church, and I decided to go and give it a try. And when I went to the church, it was a full gospel church, which was much different than the Catholic church that I grew up in, so it was a bit scary. But I could not deny the presence of the Lord. I never felt it like I did that day. When the pastor was preaching, it was just sticking right to me. I just felt like the message was just for me. I made a decision to ask Jesus to be my Savior that night in that church. And I'd like to say things changed at that point, but they didn't. Things got a lot worse from that point on. And I look back and I realize it's because I wasn't willing to make any changes on my own. I was waiting for some miracle just to come and cleanse me and wipe all my bad stuff away and just fix my problems without me making any kind of sacrifice. Didn't know how to get out of it. It's like every area of my life, financially, relationally, emotionally, everything was just so bad off. It's like, where do you start to fix these things? So one night, a friend of mine, Buster Dupuy, had called me. He was telling me that there was hope, that if I would turn my life over to the Lord and give him a chance, that things would be different. So he told me there was a place in Florida, a program 10 months long, and at that time, it just looked good to escape what I was in, to get out of Louisiana, the people that I was running from and trying to run from my own lifestyle. And I went to Florida, and I was there in a 10-month program. And I did good for a while. And then after a few weeks in there, I began to get into some rebellious stuff. The rebellion began to come up in me. I started using tobacco, which was against the rules, and it got exposed. He offered me day one to start the program back over, and I was there for 4 months at the time. So I said, no, I don't think I'm willing to do that. And I made a decision that I was just going to go home. And that day, the Lord did a miracle in my life. I was there just kind of debating and arguing with him, and I remember telling him, I've tried and nothing's changing, nothing's happening. And he corrected me and he said, no, you haven't tried. You've been trying things your own way. And I remember him saying, if you give me the next 10 months of your life, I'll show you things you've never seen before, and I'll take you places you've never thought you'd go. And something in me just stoked up, just with hope. And I believed it. Went back in and asked the program director for another opportunity and asked everybody to forgive me, and they did. They were graceful enough to give me another opportunity and started me back at day one. And I remember waking up the next day, and it just seemed like everything was different. I mean, I wasn't perfect by any means, but my attitude was different. The way that I viewed things was different. All the situations that I would go through in tough times, it's like the Lord would just begin to speak to me, and he would teach me. He'd speak truth, and he'd speak identity, and he'd speak purpose and direction. Every one of those situations, I was experiencing Jesus more than just a head knowledge of knowing who he was. I was experiencing in my heart of who he was. In that process, I was falling in love with him because of who he was. And now that I look back, I see that all the different seasons of my life, and that he was growing me up and teaching me these things, he was just kept preparing me for the next season, and ultimately for the biggest responsibility of being a husband and a father and having a family. And it's been a tremendous journey of sanctification through this salvation experience. And I'm definitely not where I want to be, but I'm surely not who I used to be, and it's only because of Jesus. I've seen what I can do with my life, and now I see what he can do with my life.